Winding Down the Campaign, an online presentation of the Federal Election Commission's Information Division. Win or lose, candidates and their campaign staff will have many decisions to make after the election. You will have to decide whether the candidate should run again, whether to convert the campaign committee into a political action committee, or whether to close up shop and terminate the campaign committee altogether. This video is designed to help candidates and their campaign staff make informed post-election decisions. If the candidate chooses to run again, you will have to decide whether to create a new committee for the next election cycle or simply to use your existing campaign committee. If you decide to use your existing campaign committee for the next run, simply file a new FEC Form 2 Statement of Candidacy to redesignate your committee as the principal campaign committee for the next election cycle. Form 2 is due within 10 days after you raise or spend more than $5,000 for the next election. Your treasurer may need to amend FEC Form 1, Statement of Organization, if there are any changes in the committee's basic information. The redesignated committee will keep its original FEC ID number and should continue to file its regularly scheduled reports. On the other hand, you may choose to terminate your previous campaign committee and establish a new committee for your next race. In that case, you'll begin by filing a termination report for your existing committee. We'll talk more about the termination process later. Once you raise or spend more than $5,000, the candidate will file a new FEC Form 2 designating a new principal campaign committee. The committee treasurer will file a new FEC Form 1 to register the committee. Upon receipt, the Commission will assign the committee a new FEC ID number, and you'll begin reporting your new campaign's activity. If you've decided not to run again, but want to stay involved in federal elections, you may want to convert your campaign committee into a federal PAC. To do this, your treasurer will simply amend the committee's FEC Form 1 to reflect the committee's new name and status as a PAC. The PAC can use the contributions your campaign received for elections in which the candidate participated, plus raise additional funds subject to its $5,000 per year contribution limit. The PAC will file its regularly scheduled reports on FEC Form 3X. Finally, if you're not running again and don't want to form a PAC, you have the option of terminating your campaign committee. In order to terminate, your campaign must no longer intend to raise or spend funds and must have no outstanding debts or obligations. Also, please bear in mind that a committee involved in an FEC enforcement action, audit, or litigation cannot terminate until the matter is resolved. Assuming your committee is eligible to terminate, the treasurer must file a termination report that discloses all previously unreported activity, including an accounting of any debts or surplus funds that may remain. The termination report is submitted using the same form as your previous reports, FEC Form 3 for House and Senate candidates, 3P for presidential candidates, except this time the treasurer selects the Termination Report option on line 4. The termination report will disclose any previously unreported receipts and disbursements, will provide an accounting of debt retirement or settlement, and will provide the purpose for which any remaining committee funds will be used. Once you've filed the report, you must wait to receive written confirmation from the FEC that your committee has been terminated. Until you receive that confirmation, you must continue to file reports. As mentioned earlier, the termination report must include an accounting of any debts or surplus funds that may remain. If you're fortunate enough to have surplus funds, keep in mind that the regulations concerning permitted and prohibited uses of campaign funds will still apply. For example, the committee may use campaign funds to pay any ordinary and necessary expenses incurred in connection with the candidate's campaign for federal office or official duties as a federal office holder. These expenses may include paying debts owed to vendors during the campaign, paying the expenses to move the candidate's office and personal furnishings from his or her Washington, D.C. office back to the home state, and any salary payments owed to committee staff. Other permissible uses of campaign funds include donations to charities, contributions to other federal and state candidates, transfers to a national, state, or local party committee, and for any other lawful purpose. However, personal use of campaign funds is prohibited even after the campaign ends. Personal use is considered any use of campaign funds to pay for an expense that would exist irrespective of the candidate's campaign or responsibilities as a federal office holder. FEC regulations include a list of items for which payment would be considered personal use. The Commission evaluates other uses of campaign funds on a case-by-case basis. If you have any questions about whether a specific use of campaign funds would be considered personal use, please contact the FEC's Information Division. If your committee has outstanding debts, you'll need to resolve them in order to terminate. There are several methods you may use to resolve debts, including selling committee assets, retiring debts through contributions, candidate loan forgiveness, and other debt forgiveness. Let's start with selling committee assets. When a campaign committee sells its property, the purchase is generally considered a contribution to the campaign by the purchaser. The payment, therefore, must not come from any prohibited source and must not exceed the contribution limits. However, certain items, such as computers, furniture, and mailing lists developed by a campaign for its own use, may be sold to anyone at the usual and normal charge without resulting in a contribution. Another way to retire debts is to raise more contributions. Keep in mind that contributions to retire a debt are subject to the limits for the past election, so donors who have already maxed out for that election cannot make additional contributions to retire your committee's debt. Also, the contributor must designate the contribution in writing for the prior election in order for it to apply to the debt retirement. Finally, you must ensure that you raise no more than the committee's net debts outstanding for that election. To calculate your campaign's net debts outstanding, first determine your cash on hand by subtracting your disbursements from your receipts. Then subtract that amount from your debts. This is the amount your campaign may raise. Often, candidates loan personal funds to their own campaigns. Your committee may use post-election contributions to repay the candidate. Keep in mind that an authorized committee may not settle any debts if the candidate has another authorized committee that has cash on hand, unless that committee has net debts outstanding greater than or equal to its cash on hand balance. In certain situations, a terminating committee can settle debts for less than the full amount owed. If your creditors agree to a settlement, you must file a debt settlement plan, FEC Form 8, with the Commission prior to or along with your termination report. The types of debts subject to settlement include debts owed to commercial vendors. As long as credit was extended in the vendor's ordinary course of business, the committee made reasonable efforts to satisfy the outstanding debt, and the vendor has made an effort to collect the debt. Debts arising from advances by committee staff and other individuals, salary owed to committee employees, and debts arising from loans from political committees or individuals, including candidates. Disputed debts are not subject to settlement. After you submit a debt settlement plan, you may receive a letter from the Commission asking for additional information. You'll receive a written notification once the Commission has approved the debt settlement plan. Please continue filing all required reports according to your committee's filing schedule until your debt settlement plan and termination report are approved. Finally, if your committee simply goes dormant, the Commission may administratively terminate it. Some of the factors the Commission considers for administrative termination include aggregate reported activity of less than $5,000 in 1 year, reports showing receipts of no contributions the previous year, minimal expenditures by the committee, and the committee's failure to file a report in the previous year. If the FEC plans to administratively terminate your committee, we'll notify you first. At that point, your treasurer will have 30 days to object to the termination. Also, if the committee conducts any financial activity in connection with a federal election, then the administrative termination will be voided. Keep in mind that administrative termination does not relieve a committee of any legal responsibility for payment of any outstanding debts or obligations. We hope you found this presentation helpful. For more information, please visit our website at www.fec.gov. You can also reach us at our toll-free information line at 1-800-424-9530 or email questions to info@fec.gov.